Hello. Excuse me. I haven't spoken out loud in a while today. So, welcome to Miss Ruth Wisdom. Welcome to a talk with Miss Ruth. And today we're going to talk about take a closer look at what keeps happening in your world. Take a closer look at what keeps happening in your world. And for people who know me, know my work, I'm always looking for the opportunity to talk about the beautiful blessings that are right there, right at our fingertips, for us to think about, recognize, have gratitude, and celebrate. And so that is our theme. We're going to look at ways to smile, ways to celebrate, ways to get that light feeling of your life being in the divine flow, in the experience of the truth of how you show up. I would love for you to give me a thumbs up or something to let me know who's here, or just say hello, Miss Ruth, whatever. But I don't know who's here. I know two people are, but I need you to give me a shout out, please. Pretty please. I was thinking about some examples and something that's happening right now in our family. And I know in yours somewhere is a child who counts on you to be there and who touches that place in you, that each time they come to you, you have a place in your heart that says, this is good. This is very good. The opportunity to share gratitude is to say back to that person, that friend, that colleague, that time when you are fed spiritually, emotionally. Thank you. I like it. Feels good. Let's continue doing this. Many of you are people who know me. I know you. I thought of something that is happening for me right now that I want to share with you. That is, I have a grandson who is out and about in life right now, learning how to fish. And I'm getting pictures of this little 7-year-old who rolls like he's 17 in so many ways, uh, learning how to be with the water, learning how to fish, being with his uncle, and his uncle who's works in construction, owns a construction company, teaching him how to use a hammer, how to work with wood. I sit on the sidelines of that and I smile because this little boy's getting what he needs. And I see the habits of the people in his life, recognizing what makes him know his gift. I also know that when we stop and we look at those patterns in our life, we start hearing that inner voice saying, this is good, this is important. One of the things, because I'm an elder, okay, I'm an elder, I'm a modern elder, thank you, is that we reach certain benchmarks where we don't have to think about a lot of things, about our career, about our finances, about maintaining our home. We think about our relationships, but we think about our relationships in a different way because we've had a lot of experiences. So there's a lot of things we know about who we are and where we're fine being alone and where we are looking for companionship. In my work, I get to coach and I get to watch the patterns and I get to point people in the direction of the patterns. One of the patterns that I'm getting to see with clients who've been around for a while or friends who've been around for a while is the behavior of wanting companionship but being out of the game for a while. I have a very close friend who is a very tall, very beautiful, and quite successful woman whose husband transitioned 5 years ago. I have experience with women whose husbands have transitioned and who had extremely successful husbands who were extremely successful. And what I'm sharing with you is not about grief and loss. It's about remembering who you are through grief and loss. And I bring it up because who you were in a love relationship, in attracting someone who loves you, is the person who we want to support to thrive, shine, and move forward into whatever the next chapter is. So here are some of the things I say. Take a look at what's going on in your world. For many people who say, Miss Ruth, I want companionship, are you showing yourself friendly in the situations that you're in? Or are you acting like a 20-year-old who is doing the things that 20-year-olds do, and that is expecting someone to approach you? People are not going to approach you if you're not showing yourself friendly. Showing yourself friendly is smiling, walking up to people, especially when you're traveling. You know, I always talk about low-hanging fruit, right? Low-hanging fruit is after you have been honest with yourself by looking at what keeps showing up. If what keeps showing up is this voice in your head saying, you're ready for some new experiences, you're ready for new people, and yet you're doing what you've always done, or you're not doing anything but thinking about it. Low-hanging fruit is when you're traveling, talking to people and sitting at a table or a bar or next to someone on the beach and chatting with them. Low-hanging fruit is always there, giving you the opportunity to practice those things that you're believing and hearing from your inner self, guiding you to take new risks. I chose this topic because many of the people who come to Miss Ruth for creativity, for looking at new directions, are people who are at the point where their children are no longer depending upon them in the way that they did, where you're now able to do new things, but you haven't stepped out, taken the risk. So, what starts coming up when I say look at what's appearing in your world are situations, thoughts, people, where you start hearing people saying the same thing to you. Now, the same thing they're saying may be things that you've already tried or you don't want to do. An example is my mom, Esther. Esther, music was always in her life. She played the piano. We have a piano still in our family home. That was mom's piano. But when mom got into her 70s, she joined a band. She learned how to play the clarinet. That band traveled. She went to Czechoslovakia with her band. In her 70s and 80s, she was doing concerts. And what started awakening in me was looking at the picture of my mom in her band uniform and realizing that music has been a theme in my entire life. And that when I am around live music, something comes alive in me. So what do I do? I go hear live music. And I tend to like jazz, but I also like some good R&B. And there's certain songs that when those songs play, I'm going to dance. That's the other thing that happens when you get to a certain stage. You can't just sit and wait for somebody to come ask you to dance if you like to dance. You just get up and you dance. Men and women. If you like to dance, honey, dance. Because the vibe and the energy that flows through you is affirming. You love music, you love to dance, you dance. Now, other people love to read. They have a pattern that shows up in their world where being alone is cool with them. They love to read. So as they have more opportunities to read, they do that. Now, what becomes a challenge is when you are ready to explore, play around with that low-hanging fruit. And people around you say, girl, what you doing? You know, we are going to go on vacation. We're going to go to Jamaica and we're going to sit on the beach and we're going to catch up on our TV shows. I had a conversation with somebody today. And I said, so why are you going to Jamaica to sit on a beach and look at TV shows that you could look at your own self house? Okay. What are the people doing in that place? Leave the resort or travel by yourself. Travel by yourself and learn about places, people, food. What starts to happen when you're out there doing you, being you, stepping outside of your routine is your inner self starts guiding you. Not only does your inner self guide you, when you look at and you listen to options that you have not prior to a time in your life gone down that path, you start encountering people who are on the path with you. If you are doing it alone, they approach you. People do not approach someone who's traveling with a companion because they figure you're doing you and your companion and you don't want somebody interrupting you. When you travel, alone, in confidence and comfort, somebody walks up and they say, "How are you doing? Can I join you? Have you been here before? I haven't. What do you suggest?" When something keeps reoccurring in your life, it's an opportunity for you to listen and for you to pay attention and for you to begin to flow into opportunities to bring new experiences into your life. Now, as I say that, I also want to restate something that I say often. It's about gratitude. It's about what you are seeing and what you are learning as you watch the repetition, the habits, the things that keep you doing the same things that maybe aren't fulfilling, or creating drama that you're ready to let go of. There is drama. And a word has been coming up in my life, in my conversations lately. The word is discernment. Beginning to use what you have seen as you look at your life and you look at the patterns in your life and you find that you can, with confidence and clarity, say, "I'm going to choose a different path. I'm going to take a different route because I'm ready to not live the story that keeps playing out. I'm going to choose a different route because I want to get to a different destination." And if I get to the same conclusion, the same outcome, that tells me that I can play around. I can play around. I call it, with my clients, I call it, you can get in the sandbox and play because you're cool with yourself in the sandbox. That means you say new things, you bring up new options. Let me make a little shift here when I talk about keep watching and listening for what shows up in your world. It also shows up in your dreams. Your dreams are the way your inner life, your inner wisdom is available to coach you. It needs you to go to sleep so it can have some time with you to say, look at this, honey, look at this, look at this. And then it runs a script for you. It runs a script. And the more you're ready to listen, the more you stop pushing away thoughts, ideas, the more you're ready to hear what your inner voice has been quietly saying to you. What that guidance system inside of you, that system that some people call your soul, because some people might even call it your Holy Spirit. We're just going to stay on a real neutral path and call it your inner wisdom, your inner voice. It shows up in your dreams. And when you are ready to listen to it, dreams come in a sequence of 3. So don't just jump at the first one. Just watch. Again, watch the patterns. Watch what keeps showing up. For me, when I moved away from my home, my family home that overlooks the Mississippi River, where I woke up and I went to sleep looking at the river, for years, water was in my dreams. Water was in my dreams. And what my inner voice was saying, Ruth, you need to go to the water. You need to spend some time at the water because that's in your soul. Okay? And once I learned to listen, and once I chose to be around the water, whatever water, I prefer the Caribbean, I prefer the Pacific, I prefer any ocean, really, for real, for real. I love, because I'm gonna go there with you guys. The water is the living truth. Water is the living truth. So when you are with water, whether it's a river, whether it's a stream, whether it's an ocean, and you sit in quiet, time alone, and you breathe, and you let yourself be quiet, a calm comes that anchors you and prepares you for what is next. A calm comes. It can be birds, it can be walking, it can be exercising. It is important as life continues to require your presence and your authentic, honest attention to it, taking those times to be quiet, not with the TV playing in the background, not even with music playing in the background. I'm gonna say that. In meeting yourself, it comes in the quiet. Music can prepare you for it. The quiet is the place where you step into the most deeper part of who you are, where you ask the questions and then you listen. You listen because your inner guide is always there. When our focus is on what's happening out there and what to do next, it's talking, it's guiding, but it doesn't chase you and it doesn't demand that you pay attention. When you take the time to be quiet and sit in your truth, and the truth may be, okay, let me just give you an example. A Miss Ruth example. There was a time when I was hanging out. I'm gonna tell you, I was hanging out. I'm gonna be real honest, real honest. I would swing pretty far out in taking risks. So one time I traveled to the Yucatan because it had been a place I always wanted to go to, and things were happening in my world. Some of you may have already heard me tell this story, but I'm gonna tell it again. So I got into the ocean. This was at an island called Isla Mujeres. And I'm floating on my back. I'm floating like this. I'm floating and I'm just enjoying the peace. And then I noticed that I was drifting out. I said, wait a minute. They told me that there was a current. I think the current has gotten me. And I panicked. And I started drowning. I think I've told this story before. I started drowning because that's what you do, right? When you panic, you start feeling like, oh, I don't know what's happening. I'm scared. I'm out here and I'm lost. And so what am I going to do? I'm going to drown. I'm going to go down because I forgot to swim. So I go down and I think, and so my inner voice starts talking and it says, Ruth, they speak Spanish. So you up here screaming help, it's going to take them a while to figure out what's going on. So why don't you stop screaming? And so I go down again and I said, well, what am I going to do? Because this is true. They say if you go down 3 times, you're drowned. You did. And so the voice said, Ruth, what were you doing before you panicked? And I said, I was floating on my back. And then I realized that I was in the current. And the voice said, why don't you get back up on your back and float? So I get back up on my back and I'm floating. And I said, what's next? And the voice said, what do the fish do to swim against the current? And I said, well, they angle their bodies and they wiggle at an angle. And the voice said, why don't you try that? And so I did that. And I eventually got to the place where I could stand up and I could walk out of the water. And I went back to my hotel room and I imagined, I had this vision of my body on the beach with no ID, nobody knowing. I know I'm getting close to my time. The point is, sometimes in some situation, that voice hits you like a ton of bricks because it is there for you and it is there to guide you. The thing that I learned, I've always heard that voice. I always heard that voice. But I thought it was going to come like angels and symphonies. It came and said, Ruth, get up on your back and float. I did. I got up on my back and I floated. And then I used what I know about navigating life. And I learned to listen to that voice because it's always been there. I just didn't trust it as my guide, my truth, always there. I'm suggesting to you that that's where your source is. That's where, in uncertainty, take time to release your need to know, to fix it. Sit and let yourself look at, listen, and be prepared to step into the unknown of new life, new experience, a kind of certainty and confidence that grows, let me say this, with taking low-hanging fruit. You don't have to be out in the ocean trying to drown like Miss Ruth. I don't do that anymore. But for me, I learned the voice, and the voice was one I've always heard. Your voice sounds like you talking to yourself, learning that it doesn't chase you, it doesn't demand. It's always there when you get quiet. Once you get quiet, you make new choices. You put yourself in situations that make you happy, where you can celebrate and where you can have gratitude with others who see the light. I'm going to say one more thing. then I'm going to go and we can talk again next time. When I got out of the water, a woman came up to me and said, everybody on the beach is watching you because there's this light coming out of you. I said, well, let me tell you what just happened. I love the light. And I trust that when we have this time together, you will come to love your light. And you'll have gratitude for that. And you will share with others your celebration of your happiness with being you and your gratitude of their presence with you on your journey. Got me? Got me? Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to be with you. Thank you for coming to these times to talk with Miss Ruth. Be well.